Can everyone see that okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. You guys are going to kill it. There we go. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. We'll get started in just a second as everyone filters in. All right, let's get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Heartland Education. Today's session is Don't Be Intimidated by SelfTalkers. My name is Larry Law. I'm the Executive Director of the Great Lakes Independent Booksellers Association. I'm one of the co-directors of Heartland. I am joined today, of course, by Kate Scott of the Midwest Independent Booksellers Association, our Heartland partners. Please note that the event tonight is being recorded and will be made available later this week. I'd like to quickly mention a few things we have coming up. As many of you know, Louise Erdrich will be receiving the 2021 Voice of the Heartland Award. She'll be presented the award at our upcoming ceremony next week. But before she accepts the award, we're putting together a video of booksellers talking about her work and her books and how they have affected them. So right now I'm putting out a call to any booksellers, our publishers or publisher partners that would like to submit a video. We're looking for really short videos, 10 to 30 seconds, just talking about Louise, her work, and how it's affected you. If you would like to submit something, please send that to me by the end of this week. This Friday is our deadline. And I think Kate is going to throw my email into the chat for anybody that doesn't have that. So please, please submit if you are interested. I'd like to mention a few events we have coming up. We have events through the end of October for Heartland. Our next few events are, our next one is this Thursday, October 7th. And it is trans-inclusive book selling led by H. Melt from Women and Children First. And then on Tuesday, October 12th, we have How to Work with Your Rep in This New Age, led by Melissa Weisberg from Macmillan. And then on Thursday, October 14th, we have our Heartland Booksellers Awards ceremony. So please join us for that. Kate will also throw a link to our upcoming events into the chat. We have 2 other events after that in October, so please watch out for those. And now I would like to introduce our educators for this evening. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. There we go. First up, we have Shane Mullen. He is the event coordinator and book whisperer at Left Bank Books in St. Louis, Missouri. We also have Cliff Helm, the head of the children's department at Left Bank Books. We have Melia Wolf, the owner of Cover to Cover Books for Young Readers in Columbus, Ohio. And the moderator for today, Kristen Sandstrom. She's the store manager at Apostle Island Booksellers in Bayfield, Wisconsin. I will let Kristen take it away.
All right. Thank you, Larry. And thanks, guys, for coming. You never know how many people are going to show up for these things since we're all sort of Zoom fatigued. But this will hopefully just be a really simple, inspiring little session for you to sort of show you that shelf talkers can just be really simple and don't have to take a ton of time. I'm going to start off by just sharing some samples of what we do here at Apostle Islands. We handwrite all of our shelf talkers and encourage both staff and customers to do things. So Shane, if you want to go ahead to the first slide there. So this is just a really basic example of very few words. You don't need to have this isn't necessarily a blurb for a book, which I've hosted those sessions as well. But these use different colors, different inks. We have all different handwritings throughout the entire store. So it doesn't have to be, reinventing the wheel. And then the next slide is even simpler because we're literally just telling our readers what we enjoy, and we don't even necessarily say why. The one on the right where with crawdads, I have one staff member who is a fantastic artist, and on Sundays, if she has all of the other tasks for the day complete and it's not too busy, she is encouraged to just create pretty things for the store. So if you have an artistic staff member, please take advantage of that and encourage them to use their creativity, because it really, really does grab the eye of the customer. Go on to the next slide. And then the other thing that's important to us is we go beyond the bestsellers or new releases. I think that bringing classics to the attention of younger readers is really, really valuable. And we sell a ton of copies of The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, or 1984, or Animal Farm, or Catch 22, simply with little shelf talkers like this. And they're almost always to people under 25. So that's, I think, sort of a wonderful thing. So look just to your backlist as much as you do the new stuff. Go ahead to the next one, Shane. And then the other thing we do pay attention to is awards. So again, shelf talkers don't have to take a lot of brain energy. This Sigurd Olson Nature Writing Award is an award that's given through Northland College, our local liberal arts college up here near Bayfield. And every year we just line them all up with these little cards in it. And in fact, you'll notice there's no year on there, so that you can save these shelf talkers and use them from year to year. And we do have a lot of generic shelf talkers like this that don't have titles, that you can switch from book to book, and time saving, and it really does draw in the customer's eye. And next one, please. Here's an example of one of our forms that has seen slightly better days, but again, the customers really don't care. We have these forms for both staff picks, and then we have them for customer picks. And if a customer says, oh my God, I just read this the other day and it's amazing, we have these forms here at the cash register, and we hand them it and say, would you mind filling that out for us and tell us what you like about it? And again, customers trust these, so use them. This one I am going to rewrite though, because it needs it. And then the next one is just a continuation of finding themes and utilizing your creative employees. So this is obviously, and I apologize for the glare on this, this is a window display, so I had to get really close to get the glare off the window. All of these new books that have come out in the last year or so, there are so many that are set in our sort of tri-state area, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin. And so Madeline, my creative employee, just created a bunch of these. Again, they're generic, right? You can put them in any regional book. And she lined these all up in a window display, and it's working. It works really, really well. So most of what we're doing is sort of thinking outside of the box in terms of not using too many words, grabbing their eye with one or two thoughts, and it works. And what I love about what we're going to be talking about tonight is that all three of our stores do things really differently. So you're going to get different feedback. This is how it works for us, especially during the busy summer when we don't have time to be doing Indie Next submissions as much as I would like to. So this is great. And then I think I have one more slide. Just another pretty picture that Madeline did for us. This is on our jigsaw puzzle table. Just reiterating, our customers notice these things around the store all the time, and they love them, and it just draws them in. And utilize those creative employees if you have them. So that's pretty much what we're doing up here in Bayfield. We take a really simple tact with it, and it's working for us. So I am going to turn over to Cliff, who is going to give a little information on kids picks. So I pass the mic, Cliff.
Excellent. Thank you. So my name is Cliff. I work at Left Bank Books. I'm pretty much the children's department there. And in a store where not a lot of the staff reads children's books, the room is just typically populated by my staff picks. And I will also stress like brevity, especially in kids picks. That no kid wants to sit there and read and a whole long screed. So I usually, I don't know, whatever I scream when I close the book is what I'm writing on my staff picks in the kids section. It's usually it's very emphatic. And first impressions. We also, since it was just me for the longest time writing staff picks, we asked our little ones, and it went from kids to to early teenagers, but we asked them to contribute as well. So we have we had a a station set up. Kids would write it's very simple form. It's asked, what book did you like, why'd you love it, and then your name and age, and in return for doing that they get really cool things. So we'll have bubbles. There's a boa somehow that I that mounted its way into the treasure chest. And it's a way to use all of the cool things that we get from publishers, things that I can't give away to teachers, bookmarks. I have so many pencil toppers and erasers and so many things. There's a way to clear those out and get more cards on the shelf, get a wider variety of things picked, and to get the turnover rate, because I can only read them so quickly, so that we get more things picked more often. And it's worked really well. It's so interesting to see how well and what books will become popular. And it's gotten other people on staff interested, or at least conversational in certain titles. They know what kids are going to, they know what people are looking for, and they even have something to say if someone asks about it later. So it's worked really well, and it is we love it. Yes, and so these are some of mine. You'll find staff picks for entire series. I staff or the SelfTalkers for artists in general, and just throw all of Elise Gravel's books on a shelf, and just love her so much. And it's a way for me to be one, to flex my baby graphic designer interests. I just make all of these in Publisher and print them out. I love the handwritten cards. I think they make it much more personal. And I can change them as often as I like, because I will, from week to week, change how I feel about a book or what I want to say about a book. It is fantastic. They work very well. I get a lot of interaction. I see some feedback, and kids will then have conversations with me. Some kids will disagree, but they will tell me that they disagree with how I felt about a book. It is a ton of fun. I think that's all I have. I can pass it to Melia.
We had a question come into the chat. If you run out of the book, do you keep the SelfTalkers written by children when the book comes back in stock?
I do. I have a whole little file folder here with all these little colorful cards. I do keep them because we usually will reorder them. And I'll cycle through. If several kids pick them, I will cycle through there so that no one gets too much shine.
Should I start? Hi, should I go ahead and go? Oh, okay, sorry, Kristen. Hi, I'm Melia Wolf. I own Cover to Cover children's books in Columbus, Ohio. And unlike at Cliff Store, we have 6 employees that help run our store and our children's department. And we're all children's books, I should say. But I attended years ago. Kristen had a panel through GLIBA, and it was very helpful right when I opened in 2017. And I learned at that panel some ideas that I passed on then to my employees. Some of the things I took away when writing Shelf Talkers were things like to include what it's about, the qualities that are most notable, and make sure you personalize it because your opinion is valid. And I share these things also. We also create Shelf Talkers for children, just like Cliff does. And we have our little, I don't know if you call it mascot, our little character for our store is a mouse. So I found these little mouse holders. And you see one, I think Shane has put it on the screen for A Wrinkle in Time, written by Ava. And she says, if you love a little mystery and adventure, then you will love A Wrinkle in Time. It's full of suspense, mystery, and adventure. So, you know, we'll accept anything that they write. We're excited that a child's excited about a book. We know that if a child writes a book is funny, that's enough for other kids to be interested typically. And we also find that if you can, we're finding for us, if we introduce a character in some way, I like the drawings that Kristen's store. Sometimes if we introduce characters, that gets children excited about the books, and we can do that. We make bookmarks sometimes and put them in with little Shelf Talkers. We also, just beyond our regular navigation, like a lot of you, we mark things that are new releases. We show signed books and award winners. Here in Ohio, we have the Ohio Honor Awards, so we mark those. And then we also have, in the past, had pictures of our staff as children to show their staff pics, which was fun. I mean, like everybody's saying, just be creative and have fun. And typically if you're having fun, they're having fun. So that's all I have. So.
Sorry, having two screens, and we're like, where's my unmute button? I mean, yeah. So as the event coordinator, I write a lot of staff picks, and this year have been fortunate enough to be selected twice by Indie Next for the brochure thing that gets sent out, which is the first time in 10 years that has happened. So I'm going to give some tips and tricks on kind of how to write an adult staff pick and what we do to keep them organized, because unlike Kristen and Melia, for the adult side, we used to do handwritten cards, and we had so many and so much disorganization that we kind of went with the route of using Edelweiss to keep things organized. And there is this very fancy export to Excel. So if your staff are all connected, you can actually take all of you can sort in Edelweiss and take all of their recent staff picks and send it to an Excel, and then you can print out in whatever method you want to do, so that if you are a store that kind of has a problem keeping things organized, this could be a way to do that. And one thing that I wanted to stress is submitting those reviews to publishers and submitting them to Indie Next if they are eligible. It looks good for your store to have like a publisher notice that you've written up a staff pick. It also helps get more books that you might be interested in. One of a bunch of the books that I have gotten this fall to read have been because publishers have said, hey, I noticed that you really liked American Marriage. We have this book that we think you will really like. Here you go. And I'm like, oh, you are correct. This does sound very good because I did love American Marriage. So they are really sneaky about finding books and finding booksellers that have reviewed books that will be comparable and getting them to read those. The thing that I wanted to talk about with creativity and encouraging Kristen and Melia and Cliff as well to do this is when you have someone creative on staff that is doing fantastic and beautiful staff pick cards, put them on social media, because that as well will help you get the attention of publishers. And yeah, it can be one of those things that you're just like, oh, I'll get around to it or whatever the case may be. But if you have like 5-10 minutes to get creative with, but you don't have the creative juices, maybe just take a staff pick photo of something that you've already done and put it on social media. These are 2 comparable staff picks that I have done that I think have done really well. Well, Elderly Ladies Up to No Good, that staff pick has done really well and is very short. And the sequel is coming back, or is coming out this fall. So I wanted to show kind of the comparison between the 2 that I did, and how easy it kind of was to just type up something really quick. I shared with the publisher, I shared with Indie Next for this one. You will see that on the Elderly Ladies Up to No Good, I read it after the book came out, so I did not share as an Indie Next book. But one thing that I really like to do is to make sure that my staff pick fits in that little box. If it doesn't fit in that box, I think that I have gotten way too wordy, and I don't think that customers necessarily will want to read that. These are the 2 staff picks that I got put into the Indie Next for, which is really exciting. And you can kind of look at how short they are. I really don't know the magic of how Indie Next gets selected. I don't know if the publishers are like, I really liked this one. I don't think it's that fancy. So I don't know if it was just a roll of the dice and they select these or whatever the case may be. But yeah, you'll see that for Syncova, my pick is very short. This is a new display that we have in the store, and we are seeing how it does. So this is an entire display of just staff picks. And the very top, the top 2 rows are all one staff member. So the other 3 shelves are the collected staff members' other picks. And we like to keep it kind of shifted up. We like to keep them fresh. And we've been switching out the top 2 shelves every week or every other week to basically highlight another staff member. These are 2 of our sections that have done really well. Well, 2 pictures of the same section that have done really well and have a lot of staff picks. And a lot of these are from the same staff member, but when someone is browsing a certain selection, they will ask me when I go into hand sell and say, oh, I really like that book. You should also check out this book. And they're like, oh, are you Mark? And I'm like, no, I'm not Mark. Because I have very few actual like written out staff picks in the sci-fi section that are current. So it's really nice to supplement and to kind of know what everyone else on staff is reading and to be able to support it and tell people that they're making good selections and that if they like what Mark is reading, hey, you might also try out this book from the science section, the history section, whatever the case may be. This is our front hardcover fiction section, and you'll see that kind of there are sporadic staff picks there. It would be great if more people on staff were reading new hardcover fiction. It's something that you have to really stay on top of because hardcover fiction and hardcover nonfiction, you get a year basically, and then it's gone. I mean, it's hard to do, but then you can reuse those staff picks when it comes out in paperback. This is an example of what we used to do. And so you'll see Cliff's handwritten one because Cliff will always prefer handwritten. You'll see my old pick for Southern Lady Code, which has gotten pretty beat up and was not even one of the worst ones that I found. But they, like you'll see in the picture on the far left, how disorganized they were. And basically we had someone trying to go through once a month and see what was in the staff picks that we had on the shelf that was not represented with the staff pick card. Because even if you were on the floor frequently, it was impossible to even realize like, oh, where did that staff pick card go for that book that we just got back in stock that I didn't even know that we hadn't run out of. So it's really nice to be able to reprint and to like maybe even have a digital copy. So if you are handwriting, maybe it would be great to take a little snapshot of some of the ones and keep it digitally for your reference so that if it does get lost, you have something that means that you don't have to like, oh, what did I say that was so brilliant about Southern Lady Code? I can't remember what was really working with customers. We have dueling staff picks. So I wanted to share these that looked really nice next to each other. These are right side by side on the shelf, the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. And you will see that Randy and Amanda both have very different kind of ways of selling this book. And we don't really know which one is working the best, but the combination of the two have sold like, forget it, I think it's like 275 copies of this book. Nice. It's so many copies of this book. And it's kind of constantly on display and it works really well. Oh, those are all my pictures. Okay. All right, done sharing.
Shane, there's a question in the chat. What is your source for these Shelf Talker holders?
Shelf Biz, I believe is the name of the company. Let me double check. It was something that we found from one of the trade shows, and it is not that I found. I think they're called Shelf Biz though. Cliff, do you know?
Yeah, if you find it after the session, just send it to me and I'll include it with the video and the session information on the website.
I will.
Cool.
Are you done, Shane?
I am.
Cool. I was just going to reiterate, this is our Shelf Talker box here at Apostle Islands. And I do have a staff member go through this about once a month, and they're clipped into, here's the sold recently Shelf Talkers, because we always take them. Last sold in 2020 Shelf Talkers. God, I don't even want to say some of these. But yeah, so the organizing of these things is probably one of the biggest challenges if you're not doing them digitally. I have store owners who feel really strongly about them being handwritten. So it is worth keeping them as organized as you can, but it's not easy, but it's worth it, I think. Do we have any other questions?
They're called Shelf Whiz. I was so close, but I did find them. They are a little pricey, but they do hold up. So they are, they're an investment, but like Melia's little mice, they're like the mice are super cute. Like, yeah.
They don't break when they fall, and they do fall.
Yeah.
I also, and I don't think I have a sample right now. We love to do Shelf Talkers in our cookbooks. We will take a Shelf Talker and actually, because we pop them up out of the top of the book versus hanging them from the shelf itself. And so we'll put it in like on a page of one of our favorite recipes or whatnot and say, you need to have this for dinner tonight, that sort of thing, for newer cookbooks. And that at least generates good conversation, and hopefully we'll sell that book, if not something else. Because then it proves that we do know what we're talking about when it comes to the cookbooks. So
the pros and cons of like having the Shelf Talker in the book versus having them attached to the shelf, I really like having them in the book because they make the customer like grab the book and pick up the book to read the Shelf Talker, which I think is great. Because once a book is in their hands, if that is the only copy of the book, they will be like, there's some like unconscious reluctance for customers to take that one that I've noticed. So it is really great when you do have a shelf talker that is especially working to make sure that you have like at least 2 copies. Because there is some weird unconscious thing that people just can't get beyond. And that is why I like the ones that hang, because you kind of avoid that. But then you also have we have the struggle of when you're shelving and you have to move like every shelf talker to make something like a new book fit. It's just like sometimes very annoying in a section that has a lot of shelf talkers.
Yeah, our shop we're about 750 square feet, but we do have 8,000 to 10,000 books in stock, different titles. So we are a very big one copy store, with the exception of, the new front list stuff that we'll have piles of. But so that is a question I get every single day. Oh, is it okay if I take this one? Is this your display copy? And of course we say, yes, please take it. I'm just noticing, question, do you find there's such a thing as too many shelf talkers per shelf or section?
I don't think so, but one of our managers has basically asked me for some of the mystery series that I like, or mystery authors that I like that aren't even necessarily a series, to kind of have an author staff pick instead of an individual title staff pick. I don't know.
I will say that does work. You can write a pick for an entire series, especially if you stand by it, and it does make the shelf look a little bit cleaner. And especially if you're just doing paper, if you don't have the holders, the things get beat up. They just do. They get torn. I've found no great way to have just the paper hang down, just get ripped by kids.
Especially in a kids section, I'm sure. Yeah, I think there's probably some unwritten balance out there somewhere and I don't know what it is. I would agree that if there are 8 books within a 20 book series that have a bunch of different recommendations, to close that down to an author pick would probably look nicer. We try to have as many as we can in the front of the store, especially with new hardcovers, because we want to get those rolling, especially if we've got many copies. But I don't know. I don't think there's such thing as too many within sections.
We also, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Melia.
In biographies, we also like to include a lot of shelf talkers, because sometimes the book who the person is about isn't mentioned in the title. And so it's a great place to kind of feature that person who the book is about.
And something else I didn't mention when I was speaking earlier is you can treat a shelf talker, just in terms of verbiage, you can treat a shelf talker just like online. When you look at something and it says, if you like this, you'll like this. You can, like with that News of the World image that I had up earlier, it talks about True Grit meets something else, Lonesome Dove. So there you are, featuring 2 other books that, like, oh, I loved News of the World, I need to try these, or I loved True Grit, I should try this. So the if this then algorithm definitely works with shelf talkers, and that works across the board, kids all the way up to adult.
We have
I'm just looking at the question.
Yeah.
Archiving. Well, we don't put them on our website, and I think that we will eventually. We are hopefully in the process of switching over to Book Manager here at Apostle Islands, which I'm praying will help my life on a lot of different levels, including being able to find time to do this sort of stuff. But in terms of tracking with our going through them once a month, there are certain books that we've said, you know what, we're not selling this anymore, or it's not selling anymore. Let's remove this one from the file box per se. And how do we handle damaged shelf talkers? Not well. I need to be better about it. So, but sometimes customers love it and they'll ask to keep it because they just like that it's aged. I don't know. Explain customers to me. Shane, you probably have a different answer to that.
So we do put them on our website, and actually, I think I can share again. Let's see there. So this is the staff pick page of our website, and you will see one of our staff kids is represented as well. Calvin's not on there though, is he? No. Cliff's kid. So we do put all of our staff picks on the website. That's another benefit of using Edelweiss, because the person who, I mean, really the staff can do it as well, but it's generally goes back to the person who is kind of merchandising the store to also kind of keep up with adding in new staff picks. Yeah, if you go to my page, I have not been doing a very good job of keeping my page up, but someone else has, which is fantastic. So it has all of my most recent staff picks. And we have it broken down. Several of us who have been there for a long, long time have it broken down to have different sections that we really enjoy, which can also be a great use of the website. And I forgot to ask, and I wanted to ask the people in the audience if they use Edelweiss, and if they don't, what kind of fears and reluctance they have against it, because like as a buyer or as an event coordinator, like we have to use Edelweiss in ways that normal staff doesn't. But when I started at the store, the only thing I knew how to do on Edelweiss, and until I became the event coordinator, basically the only thing I did on Edelweiss was just put staff picks. I didn't do the digital review copies, which now I know how to do that. Still don't like it. But yeah, those are basically what I like to show new staff members, is how to do a staff pick on Edelweiss and how to find new digital review copies. Yeah, when we had the big giant box of staff picks, it basically existed until the staff member left the store, and then we would take out their chunk of staff picks and archive them for posterity.
It just sounds so sad.
I know. That's why you don't leave a store. If you want your staff picks to exist forever, you have to stick with the store forever.
Are there any other questions? Oh, go ahead, Cliff.
Oh, I was gonna say I do. I don't have a digital record of all of my own staff picks because I handwrite them and they don't. They'd never find their way to our website. I should be better about that. But I do have them loosely organized in a way that only I understand and looks like madness to anyone else. But I do keep an eye on, since I touch all of the books almost every day, I have in my head, how many copies I had yesterday, and since I'm doing the reordering as well, what sells, and I'll know to go grab the empty card. I so often forget to put it back once the book comes back in. So I do have a desk drawer that is full of SelfTalkers that I need to get put out. But I try to schedule time to go through and make sure that everything that I want highlighted is highlighted, if by a SelfTalker, or leaving things on a display too long until the SelfTalker comes back.
Question for you guys. Do you find books in your stock that will you create a shelf talker for something that isn't selling well just to help promote it that way?
I have written shelf talkers just to prove a point. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. If I liked a book and it is selling slow and I think I can give it a little, I absolutely will. Even if it wasn't my favorite book, I will add a shelf talker. Only glowing. I'll only say good things. But yes, I believe we should, right? If you like the book, if there's something to like about the book, it's worth telling people.
I agree.
I think it depends on what because I love your display of, sorry, I don't know what is going on with my voice. Puberty, maybe. I love your display of set in northern Minnesota or set in Wisconsin. Like, that is such a great idea. And I think that a display like that is greatly benefited by like a creative shelf talker like that. So even if you haven't read the book, but if you know why someone would want to pick up the book, like, that's so smart.
Well, and I think to sort of add to that, I am ashamed to say how few books I actually had time to read this summer. So I've been depending on Edelweiss, and I've been depending on my staff, who consists of 2 part-timers. And I've been depending on just the information within the book to create shelf talkers. And so when it comes to, if you're in a tourism-based area, specifically when you have so many people coming from elsewhere, I mean, we had so many visitors from St. Louis and Chicago, and regions that don't necessarily come this far north all the time, but so if we're able to just have books that are out that say, hey, this is from your region, this is from this, or they want something that's from where we're from, to be able to say set in northern Wisconsin, set in northern Minnesota. The amount of Kent Kruger that we sell in the summer months, just because it's a mystery that takes place in our region, and we don't have to say what it's about at all. And I've never read a book by William Kent Kruger. I know I am definitely in the minority here.
He can hear you.
He knows it. I've admitted it to you. I don't read mysteries, but I can sell them like crazy. So you don't necessarily have to have read the book to write a good shelf talker. And that's another sort of Kate Scott, sorry, I just saw your comment. Sorry, confession time. Yeah, so it does not have to be daunting in the slightest. Just find something nice to say about it. And we have pulled shelf talkers when there are certain books that we have intentionally pulled from inventory. For example, we are no longer selling Hillbilly Elegy in our store. And that's very intentional on our part. So without, don't be ashamed to just pull it either, even if it was a good title. So. Yes, Larry, we actually have had a couple of visiting authors. We ask them, of course we're asking them what they read. When you have an author event, that's something that you ask them, who inspires you, or who are some of your favorites. And we have absolutely had, now I unfortunately don't have any in there, that they've actually physically written for us. But we certainly have a couple of books throughout our store that say, favorite of Nicholas Butler, or favorite of, Peter Guy loved this book, that sort of thing. And that's along the same lines as the if this then that algorithm, and it does work.
One thing that we did years ago that kind of fell by the wayside, especially in the pandemic, we did author recommend videos. So before the advent of virtual events, we would take a little like 2-3 minute recording of some of our touring authors to say like George Saunders recommends this book. And I mean, if you ever have the pleasure of hosting David Sedaris, he always tours and recommends someone else's book. So that was, I think, the inspiration for that kind of idea. And it worked really well for quite a while of posting on social media. We hosted this author last night, and this is a little blurb about their book, and this is what they recommend. And it was really nice.
It's a great idea.
Sometimes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sometimes we use little hooks that are common in our store, like a great family read aloud, or just a great read aloud, because we have so many librarians and teachers that come to our store. So just a hook like that, something that they'd be like, just an addition to about the book, you can add how it can be used. So
we do some of that similar stuff within our kids section in particular, because of the number of grandparents that we get, especially during the fall season, buying gifts for their grandkids as they're traveling and kids have just gone back to school. So we have a display on the side of our kids section that will generally have themed. And for a long time right now, the entire side of our kids section is all Native American voices, because we have a wonderful local publisher who's producing Ojibwe dual language titles, and it's our local tribe. And so SelfTalkers basically Native voices. It's so simple, and it's a whole display of books. And I'm just going for the simplicity, and it works, especially with kids stuff.
The beauty of SelfTalkers, like, I am slightly extroverted. If you've not met me, you may not know that. But so I have no problem walking up to a customer and asking them if they're finding everything okay and making recommendations. But we have several staff members that are not really, that's not in their comfort zone. So yes, they will approach customers and ask them if they're finding things okay, but they won't like it takes a little bit to get them in over that hump of chatting about books. And staff picks and SelfTalkers are a great and easy way to either start the conversation, or when you have that staff member that might not be there to go out and do it, or like if you're a small store and you are with another customer or ringing people out, like it is doing the job of asking people if they are finding everything okay and making recommendations. So
it's nonverbal selling.
Mm-hmm.
And it really does make a difference. Although Shane, I think I'm probably along the same lines as you. And when somebody says, what book should I read next? That's the worst thing in the world to ask me, because I will literally go with them to the shelves and like pull 6 books off. I'm like, here's what you're buying today. And oftentimes, if they don't buy all 6 books, somebody else who's eavesdropping on this conversation in our 700 square feet, well, can I have that one? And yeah, it's great. I love it. But the SelfTalkers will do that for us if we're not our normal extroverted selves.
Yeah, an off day.
It's a quiet crowd. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Track SelfTalkers in POS. We don't right now because we're using Anthology. I'm hoping there are ways within Book Manager that I'll be able to do more of this stuff. But I'm still new. I in terms of that, so I don't know. Do you guys do any of that, Shane?
We do, but I don't know the magic behind it. So we use Booklog, and our assistant buyer and one of our managers like has some way of tracking. I know that for a while it was a stock number. So it would put in like which staff member, but like he showed how many, like he broke it down to titles of like what we were selling from each section a little bit, or like our most popular sections a little bit ago. And like paperback fiction, I think 30% of our sales were coming from staff picks, which was really kind of, I thought, a huge number. And I think it was science fiction that was even higher than that. And so it showed the few of us that were looking at those numbers like, oh, so these do really work. I don't know, like I know personally which of my titles worked the best, but I am not like, I'm a talker, I'm not a numbers person. So I don't investigate like how all the numbers break down and like where, like what I've sold like 200 plus copies of. Like I couldn't tell you that offhand.
It's an interesting thought though, and I think if there was an easy way to do it, I think we would. When I think off the top of my head of what our top selling like over the years books are, all of those books do have shelf talkers, but they're also books that we would all hand sell every single day, whether there was a shelf talker in it or not. So those top sellers, I can't attribute, but others maybe. It would be interesting to look at or have somebody else look at for me.
Do you keep track of any numbers, Cliff?
I do not. I know, in my head what books I love to sell, and I know when they've stopped selling, and I know when I need to start putting them in people's hands. I also get rid of shelf talkers a lot, exchange them for differently worded ones when I feel like they've slowed up. But no, I don't track sales, and I don't have, once the book is returned, I don't have any mechanism for remembering that I that I had a shelf talker for it.
You track them, Melia?
No, when we reorder, we track our sales every night. When we look to reorder, we look and we reorder by how things are selling, but not associated to the shelf talker.
Right.
It's an art and a science, right? To
Right.
reorder. Yeah.
But that's book selling.
That's right.
Yes.
I think at this point we'll hand things back over to Larry unless anybody has any other questions. We might be a little bit early, but I think that's okay.
Oh, that was great. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Melia. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Cliff. Like I said at the beginning of the session, this is recorded. It'll be available on our website, on the Heartland website later this week. I'm also going to download the chat because there's some good info in there. And I'm also going to add the PowerPoint to the website, if you're cool with that, Shane, that you sent me, so everyone can have access to those photos that were in there. Yeah, thank you all. And please join us this Thursday for trans-inclusive book selling, another Heartland education session. It's at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all so much for today. This is great.
Thank you.
Thanks.